Yeah, I mean, we're hearing a decade of cutting back maybe ahead. U.S. consumer debt is up 70% this decade. U.S. consumer debt, something like $2.5 trillion right now. Here's a worrying figure from Canada. Our consumer debt surpassed disposable income just about 5 years ago, 2002. Our household debt has soared to almost $1 trillion, so we're not out of the woods. Let's talk to an expert on debt, George Bulkey. He's president of Vantage Financial Consultants. He's also author of a book called It's Your Money. He joins us from Edmonton. George, it's great to see you. Thanks for sparing the time.
Nice to be with you, Andy.
Should we be worried about consumer debt in Canada?
Well, you know, as a society, we're a whole lot more conservative than Americans, but what happens south of the border comes here eventually, whether it's U.S.-style fees or our attitude towards payments and not worrying about the total we owe. You were talking about Canadian consumer credit being a total of about $1 trillion. Sometime in the next 60 days, the U.S. is going to hit $1 trillion just in credit card debt. So, yeah, we're more conservative, but we're catching up rapidly, and that's not a good thing.
Do you see, I mean, in the States, what could be the next domino to fall? We've heard car loans, obviously, are a significant problem down there. Credit cards, could we see massive defaults in America?
Well, the problem in the States, to my way of thinking, is mortgage deductibility. That's an $80 billion tax bill a year, but it has given Americans a license to continue to run up their mortgages and treat them like ATMs. The wave of refinancing mortgages is obviously over now. I'm not sure the next wave will be credit cards, but it's probably going to be cars. For some reason, Americans think it's some kind of constitutional right to own a new car every 2 or 3 years. Even here in Canada, more than 40% of us, when we trade our car, we owe more money than it's worth. Retrading cars is a big problem, and that's an easy way to get out of $400 or $500 car payments because they just kill cash flow.
Just tell us briefly, how should you buy a car then? What attitude should you take to buying a car?
Well, you know, I drove by 3 dealerships on the way to the studio, and the signs are all saying $199 a month, $299 a month. It's financial suicide if you're buying something based on payments alone and not looking at the total debt. Because if you think it's exciting to have a $199 car payment, you obviously aren't interested that it's a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year financing term or a 5, 6-year balloon. You need to figure out the total you're paying back, never mind what the monthly payments are. I'd rather have some short-term pain with a little higher payment and have it paid for in 3 or 4 or 5 years, if that makes sense.
It's interesting, actually, just dealers, one of their big sources of profit is insurance and financing. Of course, we don't reckon the cost on this. You're seeing some...
Well, Andy, in a dealership, more than 50% of the total profits is done by the business office. That's exactly right.
It's amazing, yeah. You're seeing some worrying trends or unpleasant trends for consumers that have shown up in the States. You're seeing these cropping up in Canada, fees, stuff like that. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, what happened 2 years ago, we started getting hit with over-limit fees for every kind of credit card transaction. From a penny over your limit, there's a $20 or $30 fee. That has now gone to lines of credit, where we've got increased credit card interest rates if, in fact, we default and don't pay by a month or two. We're going to get a whole bunch more U.S. fees coming our way, and November 1st is Christmas for most financial institutions because the little insert in our statement 2 months ago had all the service fees going up again starting November 1st.
George, it's Kim Parlee here. I'm curious, if we compare, again, Canadians versus U.S. in terms of, I mean, I know we're not as indebted as Americans, right, but clearly you said that trend is growing. What is the biggest danger right now in terms of credit for Canadians? I mean, where are we seeing the biggest bubbles, in your opinion?
Well, if you're in the East, you never did have the housing bubble as much as Western Canada. In Vancouver, condo prices are down about 50%, listings are up 100%. In Calgary, for most condo projects, 30 to 40% were bought by investors. When you're buying an investment property and the only hope you have is to flip it immediately, that's gambling, it's not investing. For someone with a 1 or 2 year time window, that is not investing. We're leveraging ourselves to borrow. And you know what? Debt-free is a